Yeah, so welcome back, everybody. This is episode 3. I'm here with Jason Brown, and we are today going to talk about Microsoft Teams. However, most importantly, got to ask, Jason, how's your week been? What have you been up to?
Finished my degree.
Very good. Very
that's
good.
what my week's been like. Yeah, got that done, and then spent some time over the weekend at parents' narrowboat out in the sun.
Lovely.
And have been actually experimenting with Raspberry Pis.
Wow. Okay, what have you been doing with the Raspberry Pi?
Dad and I have been trying to make a little sort of home theatre PC out of one for the narrowboat. And we took it over there at the weekend, and it works well. So we've just been getting all that set up, and
Idea.
yeah, it's been working really good.
Idea. Yeah. Totally envious about the narrowboat in the sun in this weather. So we are today supporting our Microsoft t-shirts. So I've got my Microsoft Classroom t-shirt. However, Jason is supporting the rather cool Ninja Cat, which was really based back from the Windows Insider kind of Windows 10 world of everything. So
from 2016.
2016. If you like your technology and you like Windows technology, it's all about the Ninja Cat in that respect. So what have I been doing? What have I been up to this week? Don't tell me you've got a real cat. Oh no, that's all right. I thought you were going to pick up a real cat there for.
I don't think everyone. Can we just appreciate the Surface case as well with the Ninja Cat?
The Surface case with the cat. So it's everywhere. The Ninja Cat is everywhere.
It's a ninja.
I haven't got anything with a Ninja Cat on with me today.
Oh, letting the side down.
I generally haven't. I'm a bit all branded, so I've got my new Microsoft Surface rucksack.
Oh, very nice.
That's very cool. So that was a great gift, which I got just before lockdown, I got to say. So I haven't really been able to go out with it. But anyway, we digress. We need to talk about Microsoft Teams and run through some of the great things that you can do with Microsoft Teams, as it's an essential part of Office 365. Yeah, really, something that has evolved. When did you start using Teams, Jason? Or
the first time that I used Teams, as it is today, was when it was a beta back in August 2018, when I was working at Earthware on an internship.
Oh, okay.
And then before then, I used to use Skype for Business and Link to talk to various people, including my then girlfriend. So yeah.
Well, yes.
We were communicating on Link when everyone was using WhatsApp and BBM and Facebook Messenger. We were the link couple.
You were linked up, and you probably had all the bandwidth there as well, didn't you?
We were linked up.
This is how it works. So Teams really is something that has grown absolutely massively. It's been part of Office 365 now for 3 years, and I have been on that journey since the start. I've got to probably admit that I haven't used it as much as I should have done. But the lockdown period has really seen a transition from using email in that respect to really focusing everything on Teams. So I use obviously Teams on my Surface device, which is kind of the mainstay of what we do. However, saying that, I also use Teams on my mobile device as well, so I can stay in contact with the work I'm doing and make calls and things like that. So Teams is, first thing I think is the best thing to say, is it's very cross-platform. It's available on everything. You can use it on the web. You can use it as an application on Mac OS and Windows, and then obviously Android and iOS are also very much supported, and it's a great user experience. And really, I suppose, Teams has really become that platform. So there are various things you can do with it, and we'll cover the basics of it as we go through today's call. But the thing is it's a platform which will expand to your needs. Saying that, I've seen a blog post yesterday or the day before, which is quoting one of the Microsoft vice presidents saying that Teams will probably be bigger than Windows in moving forward. So that's really quite a brash statement for someone high up in Microsoft to come out with. And I think really it just shows the importance of Teams and where it sits, and the development that will be going into Teams continually from as we speak. And I suppose really from my experience, what I've seen is kind of around the kind of February time, I had so many customers ring me up going, Kevin, that conversation you've had about Microsoft Teams with us for the last 2 years, how do we get this to work next week? Kind of thing, because that's what we need to base our remote learning on. So it's been a very quick journey. We've seen users go from 11 million daily users up to 75 million daily users as well. And in that period of time, new functionality has been brought in. So let me just start with the basics first of all. How do you get Microsoft Teams for your school? Well, you get Microsoft Teams for your school by subscribing to the Microsoft 365 or Office 365 Plan A1. And that is the completely free plan. And in there, you will get Teams as a web app. And that web app is really cool, works really well, gives you 9/10 of the functionality that the kind of desktop version does, but you can use it to do your communication, collaboration, store files, access files, and various other things. So probably the best thing to do now is to jump in and just kind of have a little delve into Teams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my desktop now, and we'll have a kind of look around and see what there is. So if I share my desktop, I'm going to kind of just duplicate Jason for a second here, because we are already using Teams in a Teams call, and we're now going to share my desktop showing a picture of Jason in the Teams call. So it's going to get, so we will get that changed over. So we're just going to minimize that. And what we're going to do is we're going to start here on the menu down the left hand side. So what you will see in Teams, and this is the same view that you will see in the web view of Teams. So again, if you just started out with Office 365, this is what you'll see. Down the left hand side, you'll have a menu area which starts with things like activity, chat and Teams. The important one here being Teams to start with. And Teams will show you the teams that you are connected to in your organization. So as you can see here, we've got a number of ones that we've set up, one called Science, one called Heads of Department, Year 11 Computer Science, Demo Files, and a few others. So if I wanted to join a team or go into a team, I would simply click on that team itself. And in that team, I would see various things. So down here, the left-hand side, which is all about the teams and channels, and talk about that a bit more in a moment. And then here on the right hand side is kind of like a content window. So you can see here I've got post files, class notebooks, assignments and grades. Now, before Teams was around, we were, Microsoft 365 or Office 365 is built on a technology called SharePoint. And Jason, when you worked with me at Wyndham High, if we were moving kind of resources to the cloud back then, we would have to build SharePoint sites out in SharePoint, which was more of an administrative thing than a user thing. So I think you were kind of, you would have been there on the front line, kind of involved in that. And it was really more of a quite of a lengthy process, and it was something that a teacher would have to come and raise an IT issue for to get it built so that they could use it. That's how it used to work, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and the interface was completely different as well. It looked more like a simple sort of OneDrive directory. If you cast your mind back to how OneDrive looked back then, it didn't look anywhere near as nice as it does now either. So yeah, back then when we were doing this in like 2014, 15, 16, it was very different. And Teams, as the name suggests, just kind of combines a lot of these sort of things that used to be separate products, such as Link, Skype for Business, SharePoint, OneNote, OneDrive, and Office 365 Video, all into one, puts them all under one umbrella in one ecosystem, all in a nice collaborative environment.
Cool. So if we were showing how easy it is now for an end user, so let's say I'm I don't know, let's say we're teachers in two different schools, or we're teachers in the same school and I'm at home and you're at home, very much as it is now. If we wanted to create a team that we could collaborate on, it would be the easiest way is to simply, you come to Teams, and it's almost like being self-service. I would join or create a team. I would create a team here, and I would call, or I would select my team type. So you can see I've got what we call a class team, a PLC, a staff team, and other. So class and PLC are the kind of education skew of Teams. So Teams is very much an enterprise product, but if you're an education customer, you get a class team and a PLC team in there. And we could use that to create a team between us really easily. So if I created a professional learning community team for us this time round, and I'm going to call it, maybe we'll call it our, I'm going to be really original here. So we're going to call it our Microsoft Teams demo. No, Microsoft Teams training. Okay, and I would set this up, and it will say, what's my privacy? Do I want to only invite members into my team, or can anybody in my organization join? We're going to call it, make it private. I'm going to choose next, and it will go off and it will create the team. So if I then add Jason into my team, here we go, and add you, it's going to add you initially as a member. I'm going to choose close, and what it will now have done is it will have now created the team. So what this has done, this is kind of now done for a teacher sitting at home. It's done the kind of behind the scenes thing that we used to do, Jason, using SharePoint document libraries and sites and things like that. Okay, so Jason, you should have an invite to this lovely Microsoft Teams training team.
I should indeed. Let me just bring up my email, and we will find that. And indeed, I have an email saying that I've been added to a PLC team in Microsoft. In fact, Kevin, should I just share my screen so people can see that?
Yeah, sure.
Let's open up. Let's share this. Yeah, so ignore all the unread emails, but you can see here, we're here in Outlook Web App. You've been invited to a PLC team in Microsoft Teams. It's pretty simple. You can just click on Open Microsoft Teams there, and then that will sign you into the account on Microsoft Teams, which is installed locally on your machine. Or if it's not installed, then it will just open up the web app and do it from there.
Right. Cool.
As you can see, it's trying to open the application, and if you didn't want to do that, you could just use the web app instead.
Okay, that's great. So let me reshare my screen again now, and then we'll continue on that journey of teams within a team. So let's go back to Teams here. So here we are back in our Teams window. So Jason, if you're at your end, if you want to join the team, we should be able to start this communication journey, communication and collaboration. So while Jason is joining the team, what I'll do is I'll go down here, and I'm going to use the posts window, and the post window is really our social media chat screen. So I can do things like, for example, I can add a post. Very much you can see there. So you can see there my little picture. It's got a little red circle to the bottom right hand corner of me. That's indicating to people that actually I'm in a meeting as well at the moment. So I'm kind of like on do not disturb in that respect. So I can add basic posts. People can reply to those posts. I can do things like, for example, I could use the rich text editor in here. And the rich text editor will give me a little bit more kind of functionality. So if this was a group that I wanted to get a message out to, oh, hey, Jason, thank you for joining. This could be a new announcement, which we're going to talk about Teams training on Wednesday. So I can make a bit more of a formal announcement, just to let you know the training on Wednesday, and add my content, and I can post that as a more like a, oh, he says, missed the most important thing out. Let's try that. post that into the chat window as well. So you can see there, what we've now got is we've now got an announcement in that Teams channel as well. So if we focus up here very much on Jason's first reply, Jason has he has just said, "Hi, Kevin Say." Got this little red @ symbol in here, and this means what he's actually done is he's used that kind of social media chat that staff, teachers, students are really used to at the moment. That kind of way of @mentioning. So @mentioning really shouts out or calls out someone in that conversation list, as you can see here. So looking down the list, if there was a lot of chat in this window, I could pick up on the little red @ signs, knowing that those posts are directed to me. Down here is my my announcement about the Teams training, and if we run down the kind of list here, then you'll see other things. So of course we can do things like we can add emojis and giffies directly into this, so we can give some feedback. So we could go back to Jason up here. We can go actually what we'll do is we'll add a little thing, and we can go, we'll put a nice one in there saying, yeah, Jason, you're the best, thank you. Thank you for joining up in that respect. So Jason, there's a great way that we can kind of give feedback. We can comment on posts without lots of typing in that respect. And these are things that when you set a team up for a class, you can actually stop students being able to do, because otherwise you might well
yeah, I wouldn't recommend using the "you're the best" GIF in the class chat.
Yeah, so you may well find yourself completely flooded with GIFs and things like that. But when you set teams up, you can allow or deny people use of some of this functionality in that respect. However, if we move to the next tab, I think this is the most important one, because if we're collaborating, it's all about really the data and the information. So again, if you take a kind of typical class setup, called classroom setup, school setup, who's not using the cloud, files are normally stored on servers. Servers are in school. If you're not in school, you don't have access to this information. But what we've got here is we have got basically a cloud version, a Teams version of OneDrive. So Jason, you use OneDrive quite extensively.
I do.
And obviously OneDrive for you is more of a, it's like your H drive, your documents folder in the cloud. The great thing about Teams drives are that Teams drives are based on whoever has permission to be in the team will have access to the information which is in the Teams drive. So for example, here, let's create a new Word document, and we'll call this Word document Teams version 1. And what I've done is not left the Teams application. So bearing in mind, if I was in any other cloud platform, I would have had to go and find another application to create this document to then upload it back into this kind of Teams drive thing. In that respect, if I'm doing it in Teams, I haven't left the application, so I've still got my menu down the left hand side, but I'm now using Word Online to create my application, so my information. So welcome to the Teams training. So as we covered off in the last episode, we've got things like, if we go to view, we've got things like the immersive reader. We've got the ability to use the new things like dictate as well. And I can now close this down. And what you'll now see is in my files window, I've now got that Word document. Now Jason should be able to see that same Word document in his files window on his Teams. So Jason, can you see that that Teams version 1 document that I've created?
Indeed, and I've edited it as well.
Let's go and have a look. So we can now open that Teams version 1 document back here. We are now opening it in Word Online, and as you can see, when I started started with one line, and obviously there has been some collaboration going on. So Jason has now edited that. And as you can see, we can see where Jason's cursor is. He's got a little JB there. And it's now just pinged up a notification to say, while you're away, there's been some changes made to your document. So a great way that you and your colleagues can share and work on documents together in remote locations.
And I just want to stress that in the past we've talked about OneDrive and collaborating and sharing and sending email invites and that sort of thing, and that works well when you're just working with maybe 2 or 3 people, or just kind of for personal use. But if you're working in a team that's working on the same documents, then using Microsoft Teams and the cloud storage on there and doing what we've just done is a lot more streamlined, because as you saw, there was no need for Kevin to invite me to this document or send a link or anything like that. I was able to go onto, I'm using the Teams web app, just as a good example. I was able to go onto my Teams web app, choose files, and then I could see this Teams version 1 document was there.
Cool. So this is great because this gives us all of the kind of stuff that we're used to in our OneDrive. But what I like about this when I'm using Teams with other colleagues is it's very easy for me to kind of highlight to people that there's a document there that we need to work on. So again, if you were a school user, you would probably have some kind of public drive or shared drive with loads of folders within folders and things like that. And it would be a case of, Jason, I want you to go and find this spreadsheet or this Word document, which is in the P drive, and you'd spend days kind of looking and finding and things like that. However, with Teams, obviously what we can do with Teams is we have that ability that we can create new files, which we've done here, but we've also got the ability we can upload. So we can move stuff that are on our old servers and we can move it into the cloud using Teams. And the great thing about this is if you take that server was based on permissions, user permissions on the server. So that user permissions meant that if something was an SLT document, only people who in the SLT could access it. And we do a similar thing here in Teams. We only give access to those files based on the permissions or the people in the team, if you see what I mean. So you may well have a general staff team for generically everything, but you'll maybe have a separate SLT team for all of those SLT documents, and people can be invited into that team as well. So if someone joins the SLT, they would be invited into that team and would have access to all of those SLT documents there. So a great thing in that kind of general use case really means that if you notice down here on the post, I can actually go hit this one here that says attach. So if I wanted to shout out to Jason that we have a document that I want him to have a look at, I can drop it into this chat window. So if I pick the team that the document that I want him to have a look at, which is my Teams version 1 doc, which is this is the one that we're doing. So let's just close that again. So let's just go back to my window. So let's go attach. Let's go browse teams and channels. There's my document. So if I click on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to share a link. We're going to drop that link into the chat window. So I can now mention Jason Brown and say, will you take a look at this? There we go. So I've now mentioned Jason. So Jason will have had that in his chat window. And instead of him having to go and fumble down loads and loads of folders, what he'll actually do is just simply click on this link here, which allows him to access that file directly. So a nice quick way of being able to add a file, access to a file into that chat window. Really cool. So let us move on. So in the world of files, we've got our files list. We can, add documents to it. We also have this tab up here called a Plc Notebook. Now we're going to talk about OneNote a little bit more in a second, but a OneNote notebook will be created for everybody who is in my team, which is really nice. And this is a specific Plc notebook, which is all about professional learning. But we'll come back to that in a second, because I just wanted to also mention the fact that we can kind of customize our team from content-wise. So as you can see here, we've got the ability to add loads and loads of things. So we can add to our window that goes across the or those tabs going across the screen. So for example, I might want to add a website for Jason to look through, or for example, I might want to add a specific perhaps a PowerPoint document which is going to be useful for our teamwork. So let's see if we can add a website, and we'll call this the BBC website, and we're just going to go to https bbc.co.uk, and we're going to choose save, and this will add this as a tab, and as you can see there now that we've now got this website pinned into our channel, or our team, sorry, that we can access at any time. So back to my files, and then we'll come back to the website tab, and we can see that we would be able to go directly to the latest version of that website, which I think is quite handy as well. So finally, before we move on and talk a little bit more about OneNote, one of the other things that we can do in our team is we can subdivide those down. So here in this menu, we have the ability to add what we call a channel. And a channel really is like a subtopic. So again, if we were teaching, this could be maybe a different teaching topic or something like that. And we can subdivide those channels down. But the important one here, I think, is manage team. So manage team is where we can kind of look at what's going on, which is really quite handy. But if we go to settings, here is where we can change the stuff. So things like I mentioned earlier on with emojis and things like that, you know, we can actually take that functionality away from people. So the only person who can add those would be the team owner, which in this case is me. So we can do that. We've got an analytics tab, so we can start seeing who's been using my team, how much information's in there and things like that as well. So it kind of gives you a bit of a deep dive into those tools. Now, if you're using an educational class team, you'll also have a deep dive into people's homework and things like that as well, which I think is quite cool. So that's a kind of a very kind of light way of being able to set up a team between one and many other people, and be able to add files in there, as well as adding chat content, which in turn will kind of make you kind of move away, not move away entirely, but reduce the amount of email that you are sending. So Jason, one of the other, of course, great things about using Teams is the ability to create meetings, and you know, doing this kind of face-to-face thing that we're doing now, in that respect. So one of the options that we have down here is that this button that says Meet Now. So we can use Meet Now to call people in our team. So we're kind of going to throw the boundaries of using Teams within Teams to do a Teams recording, but effectively what we would have here is we would have the ability to have a video call like we're doing right now. But I'm not going to do a meet now. I'm going to schedule a meeting. So by scheduling a meeting means that if I wanted to arrange a call with Jason later on in the day, I can easily do that. So this could be our Teams update call, and I would then go and add Jason as a recipient. We will set the time, so we'll have a look at maybe a bit later on, so 1 o'clock to 1:30, and by hitting the send button now, it would invite Jason to a meeting and add this into his calendar. And what we should see in my calendar here will be at 1 o'clock this afternoon, we've now got a Teams call. So if we clicked on that Teams call, we would see all of the details in there. Here are the joining instructions for Jason, who all he needs to do is click on the Join Teams meeting. And all I would need to do is click on Join up here, and then we would start the same kind of call that we are in as we speak at the moment. So if you imagine, again, this was a staff meeting, a PLC meeting, talking to your colleagues, it is very, very simple to set up one of those meetings, either by meeting now or scheduling a meeting at that point. And I know, Jason, you've used that functionality quite frequently in your kind of NUA stuff and learning and bits and pieces.
Definitely, yeah. This is really good, especially if you're going to have very big calls. We had a call the other day that there were about somewhere between 80 and 90 people on it, and it just makes scheduling it a lot easier. It's a lot easier than just kind of emailing 90 people and telling them to be on Teams at a certain time and something might happen. Whereas with this, you're able to get the communication out to them, and then they're able to click on the link, do what they need to do in order to get to the meeting.
So in a call, obviously, being in a school, first off, you've got things like, or being at home even, where you want to kind of change the background. And when I say that, because we could be in an office which has got stuff on the boards behind me and things like that. So the functionality we see here is really good and has been kind of recently updated. So first of all, if I go to in a meeting that I've set up, so this is 1 o'clock, Jason's joined, here we see each other, we've got our webcams going. I go to this option that says more actions. What I've got this ability to blur backgrounds. So blur backgrounds is great, but a bit of fun. But if I suddenly wanted to go, hey Jason, I am now in, I'm going to go into my Minecraft Dungeons world. Jason will now see me as we're seeing here on the screen. So the camera is picking out my shape. And it's replacing the background with any background border. So yeah, I've got that ability. I can change the way I'm appearing, or I can black out my home background and things like that, which is quite cool. Other things on there are we can also see are things like the live captions, and I know live captions in the work that you've been doing with accessibility, Jason, is really important. So we kind of covered it briefly on the PowerPoint online, but live captions have now made their way into Teams meetings, I believe.
Indeed, but at the moment they only work in English and US English at that, but over time they will be introducing other languages. So I think the way the world is going is that Teams and other video conferencing tools presents a great opportunity to actually spend less time traveling between different countries or states or wherever. And instead, we can just use video calls to talk to people on the other side of the planet. But of course, the problem that we might have is that if you're in America talking to someone in Japan, there could potentially be a language barrier between you. So that's what these live captions will help with. And then in the future, they'll be able to actually translate into the language. Or if you are hard of hearing, then of course this is quite good too. Or even if you're talking to somebody who's quite heavily accented, perhaps you can't understand their lovely Irish or Scottish accent, this could potentially be something that helps you out a little bit.
Cool. Well, I've now turned on live captioning, as you can see, sort of if I point that way, and it's yeah, working absolutely fine.
As you can see, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's for sure. So we've also got the ability that we can share our screens, which is what I'm doing at the moment. Hence, that's why you appear sort of there and there. But obviously, the great power about this is from an instructional learning perspective, remote learning, that, as a teacher, I could share my screen. I could show students what I am working on. We could watch a video together. We can do all of those kind of things, which is immensely powerful in that respect. And then, Jason, have you seen this?
Yeah, everyone's seen this. The raise hand feature.
Everyone's been going bonkers for raising their hand.
Yeah, so what this allows you to do is literally the equivalent of being sat in a room full of people and sticking your hand up and waiting to be invited to speak. My recommendation with this would be to use it, speak, and then remember that you need to put your hand down. It won't put your hand down automatically for you.
You know what? I think that is an ultimate top tip, actually.
Yes.
There are 400 hands. No. So Jason said this is the way that you can alert the presenter that you have something to say, and they can tune in on that, if you see what I mean. And the way they would do that is they would obviously see their hands raised, but by going to the show participants list,
Like if I
You would
raise
see
my
the
hand.
participants as, oh, Jason, you have just raised your hand. You obviously want to say something. Jason, over to you.
So yeah, so to go into the participants list, you'll see my hand is raised. Usually this feature is used in kind of big conference calls, so where everybody bar the speaker is usually muted. If somebody wants to say something, they raise their hand, and then either the individual is invited to unmute themselves, or the call organizer unmutes them and then they talk. And then afterwards, you must remember to click on the little button again to lower your hand.
Indeed, very good, great tip. So that's obviously really cool, and obviously, you know, that can be if you are running an online class for students. Again, that same rule applies, that if a student wants to say something, then they can raise their hand. The teacher could look at that and you know, invite them to talk in that respect. So we mentioned that we're in our kind of quick sail through Teams, that we saw there was a OneNote notebook, and in this case, in the team that we created, was a PLC notebook. Jason, if I stop sharing my screen and you share yours, perhaps we can run through some of the kind of basics of OneNote, and the benefits of having that in a team.
Sure. So we're going to go more in depth with OneNote in a future episode, so keep watching if you're interested in that. But as has been said already, Teams comes with a notebook that is shared between everybody who is in the team. So again, it's just a link up here. We click on Notebook. In this case, it says PLC Notebook, and the notebook should open up. And if you have used OneNote in the past, you'll see that the interface is very, very familiar, or even if you've used OneNote online. So you'll see that we have our page heading, and then we have kind of a body of text and images. We have our graphics, and we have all our formatting here, just as we do in OneNote Online or basically any other Microsoft Office product. And if you click on this little button here, you can see that we have all of our sections and subsections, just like we do in OneNote. That we've known about OneNote for years and years and years. This is just the same thing, although just like our demonstration with Microsoft Word a bit earlier, the benefit of this is that I don't have to make a OneNote notebook in my OneDrive and then share it with everybody. It's already shared. It's in the Teams. It's dead easy to do.
Sure.
And in this example, it's got a Microsoft have made a template which you may or may not want to look and have a read through. But if you don't like stuff, then you can just right click on the pages, delete them or copy them, or do whatever else it is you want to do. And you can, of course, create new sections. You know, click on new page, new section. You can do all of this. You can change all the colors as well. So this is basically just like having the OneNote app that may or may not be installed on your computer running here within Microsoft Teams.
Great. So if we were creating a class team, that structure of that OneNote would be a little bit different.
Yeah.
That would have in the sections would be actually our students. So maybe what we'll do in the next episode, we'll create a class team, and we can show people how we can sort assignments out. And maybe I can set you some homework, and we can give a run through about how that OneNote would exist in the class environment. So, you know, every student having a digital notebook of their own, effectively, which the teacher can kind of look in at the top, and see what's going on, and give feedback through things like maybe video or audio, or of course, as he grabs his Surface Pen on his Surface Pro X, the fact that I could use it to write on the screen as well. So that those kind of feedback mechanisms are really important, and having that in that digital form, which is a digital notebook that can just grow and grow and grow and grow, really means it's really powerful. As you say, all of the great stuff that makes OneNote really. There is no other product like it on the market. You've got the things like the immersive reader that are in there as well. And it kind of always throws me back, Jason, to a photograph that you took when you were at Wyndham, which I still have somewhere, which is basically the pile of books that you used to carry around in a bag, or folders, sorry. And in that picture was your bag, about 3 or 4 I don't know, A4 folders full of stuff, and then you had one Surface, which was an actually Surface Pro, the original Surface Pro.
So I've got the picture
and
here.
on there you had OneNote with all of your notes, which you were sharing with teachers.
There it is. There's the image.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, so this is a Surface Pro 3. So the idea of this image is that you have this school rucksack here, and this one was actually mine at the time, and it broke mainly because I tried to shovel these bloody folders into it. And the idea was, the caption was very simple. OneNote can replace all of the notes in these folders, and it's on one device that is, it's a Surface. It's pretty small and thin, right? And they even go smaller than this these days, and thinner. So one Surface or one device, a bit like this or smaller, can actually carry everything. In fact, heck, you could even put them all on this. So there we go. That was the idea.
Yeah, no, that's the photo that has stuck in my mind for quite a long time.
Since February the 14th, 2015. There you go.
That's when we were OneNoting. Hey, that's when we were OneNoting in that respect. So yeah, no, great. So this has really been a like a first dabble in Teams. So if you have not used Teams before, here we go. I'm going to share my screen one more time. There's a couple of things I would like to kind of share with everybody. So I'm going to just go back to Teams here, and I'm going to go to my web browser. So first off, if we go to education.microsoft.com, the education.microsoft.com community is the CPD portal for using Microsoft 365 in education. So if you explore and browse learning paths, you will come up with loads of courses which can give you a kind of first.
Do you want to share your browser?
Into he says, hang on.
Sorry.
Well pointed out. Let's try it. Let's go. There we go. Let's go my browser window. We may need to be really cool in the edit and just chop that little bit out.
Yeah.
So here is the Microsoft Educator community. That Microsoft Educator community is a great place to get started with learning paths on using Teams and how to use it. Remember, 75 million people a day use this product, but you can see here's a great sort of get started with the remote learning with Office 365 and how to use that in Teams. The other one is if you are a Teams user and you want to use it more and you want to find out what's happening, if you go and search for user voice, Microsoft Teams Education, this will take you to the Microsoft user voice site. And the user voice site really is where we are, or where feedback comes from educators for helping to build the product moving forward, and things like that. So as you can see here, one that has recently come to Teams is moving from the in a conference call more than 4 active users. So we're now up to 9 users, but there's a requirement for it to grow even further. So they are still developing, and you'll get feedback directly from the engineering team. Also on other things in here, so things about waiting in lobby. You can see things which are in development, and these are built from feedback from educators like yourselves using this in that respect. So great place to go to see what's coming, what's happening. My last tip is by going to Twitter and following this guy, Mike Tolson, who is kind of the principal product manager for OneNote, for Teams, and everything going on in that space. So you'll always get the kind of latest goings on in the Teams space, in the OneNote space, in the remote learning space as well. So next edition, Jason, we will talk about a bit more about Teams. We will create an educational class team. We can show people OneNote in a little bit more in that class role. And then we can also see that if we were creating a lesson, how we can record that lesson into Microsoft Stream and have a lecture capture system effectively for free in school that other students could use to either catch up on, or they're using it for remote learning.
Indeed, there's so much more that we can do with it. This was just kind of a very general overview of Teams, and hopefully by watching this you have an idea about how it works and what it does.
Indeed. So we'll see you for episode 4, which will be a new team.
A new team. Because remember, if you can't work with the team, then you're all fired. IT crowd reference.
Indeed. There's no I in Teams, remember. Anyway, enough for today. We will see you shortly for the next episode in this kind of series of simple talk about how to get the best out of Microsoft 365 in the classroom. So it's goodbye from me, and as someone used to say, it's goodbye from him. Thank you.
See
Bye.
you later, guys.